right, happy Friday everyone. So today's question, a bit of food for thought before we head into the weekend, but is this neurophysical phenomenon affecting your eating habits? So you may or may not be aware that one of the biggest roadblocks often to eating in alignment with our goals is usually related to emotional health challenges that we're facing. And our emotional health challenges show up in a variety of ways. For example, have you experienced a time when you felt unable to describe how you're feeling in any given moment? I certainly have. And apparently this phenomenon is called alexithymia. Alexithymia literally means no words for mood. It occurs when you have trouble identifying how you're feeling in general, identifying the difference between specific emotions and physical sensations. So, if you're starting to feel a bit of that heaviness, a lump in the throat, a knot in the stomach, an elevated heart rate, etc., and describing those feelings, of course, to other people. So those of us who experience alexithymia generally prefer external rules and systems because you can't feel intuitively when things are right. Then you're not sure if they feel right or not. So they find, and you don't trust yourself, right? And so you often as well find it hard to imagine or visualize things and tend to avoid going inward to reflect or sense internal cues around what's happening in your body and how you're feeling, right? And this can be problematic when attempting to eat better because you're more likely to eat automatically or unconsciously in response to stress, anxiety, or other difficult emotions. So when we say that we're emotional eaters, then sometimes it could be because we actually don't know how to express those emotions, not just because we're trying to, that we're experiencing difficult emotions, right? And then, obviously if you're doing that, you're not sure why you're doing it. So you're like, why did I go and eat like that whole block of chocolate? I didn't even feel like it, right? Or you make other unhelpful food choices as well, such as stringently restricting your food on intake. And anyone who's an emotional eater has definitely been through this, right? The other thing is that you might resist developing internal awareness. So, for example, you have an aversion to doing the work of learning and sensing physiological hunger cues. You'd be like, why would I want to do that for? That's stupid or whatever. Or I don't have a problem with that, right? You also prefer to rely on external rules and structures and systems, such as a calorie counter or an exercise machine or a specific prescribed meal plan to know if you're doing things properly, right? And this is why a lot of the times having a meal plan is actually counterproductive. You're more likely to obey external rules, structures, and systems over the evidence from your own body. So, for example, you might insist that you should consume whey protein or BCAAs, even though it upsets your stomach, because studies show that whey is best and certain pro users BCAAs will recommend them, right? So, despite your ability to actually stick to those, despite the above, your ability to actually stick to those external rules is usually pretty dismal as well, right? And it's impaired because you're unaware of when your own emotions, physiological factors, and automatic behaviours might be pushing you off course. So basically, you have no self-awareness and no interest in building that self-awareness, right? And that doesn't mean to say you don't have self-awareness across the board. It's just when it comes to these sorts of things. And then what you'll often find then is that you just have this trail of failed diet plans and 30-day challenges strewn behind you, right, where you've tried to make a change and it hasn't stuck. And the other thing is as well, you could have trouble analysing and explaining what happened related to how you felt in any given experience. This means you might struggle gathering feedback and learning from your own experiences or noticing when your emotions might be affecting your choices. So in other areas of your life, you could have a growth mindset, but when it comes to this, you're almost closed off from that learning opportunity. The other thing is as well, is this is where we see a lot of shooting yourself in the foot. So you mistake shoulds for your own needs. So for example, you might mix up the wishes of others or external standards and your own desires and values. So, for example, I should look like this, or I should be able to do this, or I want to do a bikini competition because, X Instagram person is doing this, or my friends are doing it, right? And I'll just follow their meal plan, which is not going to work, right? So how do you manage this if, you have noticed that you might be displaying some alexithymia tendencies, or maybe you know someone who displays some tendencies in this area? Well, there's a couple of things you can do. One is, if you're still not, is to actually have a look and actually rely and boost the external stimulus you have in place by creating or having someone create for you some structures and systems. So that could be, okay, well, how about if we work on the hand-sized portions and some menu templates and some healthy upgrades and so on and so on. So you've got some external things that you can rely on to actually improve your eating habits, and some guidance around what you should be eating, when you should be eating, and how much, right? The other thing you can do is obviously engage a coach to help you practice sensing your own internal cues. And so that doesn't even have to be a fitness and nutrition coach. It could be any other kind of health professional, allied health professional, anything like that as well. Obviously medical health professionals as well. And what you want to do is like internal cues. So just even simple things like such as hunger and fullness. And you want to do these things slowly and systematically, even if you don't like doing it at first. So we want to take the most simple of actions. They're going to feel stupid, but the whole idea is to do that and to get the confidence in nailing that first, and then becoming more open to some of the other work that you might have to do down the track. So really curious to understand if this is a new concept to you, and if you happen to know anyone with alexithymia tendencies. If so, comment below.